Alright, so first we're going to review the Druid cards, so let me just get onto them. My mouse has scrolled down to the neutrals, so all the Druid cards released in the collection. So first up, Ashton, what are your thoughts on Aviana? The 9 mana 5/5, your minions cost 1 more. I mean, minions cost only 1.
I think this card's really cool. I think you probably you definitely try and make a deck around this. I think you probably put this in Ramp Druid. I think it probably does fit. Obviously, if this card stays on the board, it's insane. The only question is whether you can get enough value out of it on the first turn that you don't care that it almost certainly dies the next turn.
Yeah.
And you probably can, as long as your deck's slow enough.
So I guess the acceptable play with this, right, would be play it on turn 10, play your Aviana, and then play like your Sarah or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. As long as your deck can consistently keep you alive, and so you can get to the late game, turn 10 and above, where you can have multiple of these big mana creatures in your hand, then I think this card's great.
Yeah, assuming the meta slows down for that, right?
Yeah.
Then, but of course, the the dream, for example, or not quite the dream, but even better would be if you, as a ramp druid, you didn't get a chance to use your innovates early on. So you have your Aviana in hand, you have your innovate, and then you can get some ridiculous value from the card.
Yeah. Or even if the coin or innovate are great because they let you get out another minion, or 2 minions in innovate's case.
And I guess the real dream is turn 10 Aviana into Malagos, into Innovate, double Faceless, into double Moonfire for
Yeah, the dream.
for lethal.
New deck archetype, OP.
Alright, so the next card here would be Astral Communion. Well, what do you think of the card?
I think it's really cool they printed a card like that, because there's nothing like that in the game. But I think the problem is, like, when you're drawing one card and basically relying on that card every game, every turn, like you are in a top deck war, and when you're doing that from turn 4, it's really hard to win from there unless your cards are ridiculously late game. So if you had a deck full of like 8 and 9 and 10 mana stuff, and you get 10 mana on turn 4, like maybe you're okay, but you can't make that deck without losing any time you don't draw this card, and still losing some of the time you draw this card.
I agree.
So I think probably not good enough.
You have to draw it at the start, or you have to wait till the end where it's a top deck wars and you can play it just for the excess mana cards. But otherwise, I think
the other problem with this card is there's a limit on the number of turns you have before it stops being that big a deal. So if you play this on turn 4, really in the next turn or two, you need to get something
huge creatures
huge,
down.
like an 8 or 9 big impact creature. Otherwise, by the time they're on like 7 mana, if you're playing an 8 mana creature, it's not such a big deal, given you'll only have one choice of creature and they might have multiple removal spells or taunts or things like that.
It relies entirely on what you top deck as well. If you don't top deck, if you top deck say like an innovate, you're in major trouble, right? Which you have to rely on both the next couple of top decks being top tier cards.
You probably can't. You probably wouldn't run, or maybe you would. I don't think you'd run innovate in this deck, would you? Because anytime you play Astral Communion, you would never need innovate, because you're basically playing one card a game.
But I guess the problem is that
if you don't
get Astral Communion, or if, for example,
that's kind of the big problem, isn't it? Is if you do draw it versus if you don't draw it, require 2 completely different decks.
Yeah, because if you don't draw it, you need something to sustain yourself later on, and if you're getting cards to sustain yourself, then when you draw it and you draw one of those cards, like say you draw Piloted Shredder next turn.
Yeah.
Then
exactly.
It's not that great.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so I mean I don't really rate this card that highly, but it's an epic, and usually epics are really interesting cards.
Yep. The next one's Mulch, right?
Mulch. Destroy a minion.
This is the
the
new one from yesterday.
So
What do you think of this one? I mean, Druid lacks good removal cards in general.
I mean, it's
Like, obviously, this is worse than Hex and worse than probably worse than Polymorph. But like, Druid doesn't have those cards. The only thing it's got at the moment is Naturalize, right?
yeah,
And Recyclize.
this is significantly better than Naturalizing, if in my opinion. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it's not going to be drawing 2 cards from their own deck. Like, that's huge. But it's just adding a random minion, and the chances are that minion isn't necessarily going to be that great.
And if they're playing something like an aggro deck, then this card's probably bad because any minion's fine.
Yeah.
But if they're playing a
Control.
combo deck or a control deck, they're probably not going to get around to playing this minion because they have really efficient minions of their own, or they have combo pieces of their own that they want to be playing.
They
So
probably will
this
be.
card's, I think this card's decent. The fact that it's Destroyer minion means that obviously Death Rattle's trigger, which is a bit of a problem, but it's still probably good enough.
I think I'd think about picking this in Arena.
I'm not sure. Yeah, for Arena, I think it's good. Do you think you put this in your Druid decks?
I'm not sure yet. I don't think it's quite strong enough. And it's got.
I mean, you lose tempo, don't you?
It's only 3 mana.
You lose card advantage because they get an extra card,
Yeah.
which is kind of a big deal. But
I guess at the moment there are
it
two.
depends.
Yeah, no go.
It depends how desperate Druid are for hard removal of creatures.
I
If
feel
there's
like
lots of big stuff being played, then maybe this card's good. If it's aggro, obviously you don't play this card.
yeah, I feel like they're not really desperate because normally they're the ones playing the huge creatures.
Yeah, that's kind of true.
So
All right.
yeah, I guess we'll see, right? So
Yeah, that
next
was hard.
we have Knight of the Wild.
What do you think of this?
I think this is a sick card. I was watching the.
I actually don't think this card's that great.
Do you know?
So you play. So do we think it is only when you are holding this card that the discount starts to take place, right?
Because we saw when they play the Kodo in the show matches before they do the card, it hadn't.
Yeah. So if you play this card as a 5-mana 6/6, I don't even know if you're running a highly synergistic deck like a beast deck would probably have to be whether a 5-mana vanilla 6/6 is actually OP.
Yeah,
I don't think it is. I think it probably has to be like a 4-mana card, which means this has to sit in your. Which means you have to get 3 beasts. So it probably has to sit in your hand for at least 2, probably maybe 3 turns if you're playing on card. And that's really slow.
Yeah.
And what you get after that is just a 4-mana 6/6. So I think I don't actually think this card's that great.
I think
You might put it in a beast deck just because there aren't that many great synergistic beast cards for Druid at the moment.
Yeah. We'll have to see how.
But
both these decks do,
I don't
though.
think a beast Druid deck's going to be a thing.
I mean, I guess it would depend. We'll have to see how beast decks do, though, right? I mean, the one we saw they put on was decent.
There's this card. There's Druid of the Fang, and there's another card we'll see in a second.
Yeah. So,
The only real things that trigger off beasts. But I guess we'll see that card in a bit.
so next we have Darnassus Aspirant. So, I mean, worst case scenario, you get this from a shredder and you cry. But otherwise, this is a really good card.
Yeah, I mean if you play this turn 2 and it dies before you get another turn, nothing happens.
Yeah.
But the hope is you get at least 1 turn out of this creature, in which case, pretty good. You get 1 extra mana the next turn, so get back. It's an efficient card to have.
Yeah. Agreed.
I quite like it. I'm not sure it's. I don't know. I'm slightly jury's slightly out because if you are playing against decks that consistently have strong openings, and this card doesn't consistently live for a turn or more, then there's probably better cards to put in. But it's probably good enough.
Yeah, and especially since it's gain an empty mana crystal, not just gain a mana crystal.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you wouldn't even have any 1-mana stuff. But
No,
this
but
is
you
true.
could play on like turn 3 and maybe you'd be able to armor up and kill. Say they have a Leponome on the board, so this survives the turn.
That's true. That's true.
Okay, but yeah, otherwise.
Should we go back to Savage Combatant?
Savage Combatant. Isn't that at the end? Oh,
Okay.
sorry, did I miss one? Okay, yeah. I assumed there was 4. Oh yeah, so Savage Combatant. I like this card. I'd pick this in Arena a lot.
I think in Arena this card's like really,
It's,
really good, right?
it's definitely top
Because
tier.
it's all about board control, and if you have a card that allows you to hero power for 2 and deal 3 damage to a minion,
Yeah.
that's really great board controlling stuff. Especially given the stats are given Arena standards like good, passable.
It's,
5/4s.
it's a strictly better Lost Tool Strider. Right.
Yeah. Do you think so? What about in constructed?
In Constructed, I think in a beast deck you'd run this, right?
Yeah, it's a strong all-round beast, so you probably would put it in. I think.
If this was a 4/5, this card would be so much better.
Yeah, but I think even as a 5/4, I'd probably try and fit it in. If you get a hero power out of this,
It's
then
value already.
it's great.
Because you can
It's
deal with their
great, yeah.
Shredder, for example. You play your Savage, then if they have a Shredder in hand and they can't deal with the combatant, there's no way I can imagine them wanting to play the Shredder if they know it's just going to get hero powers.
Yeah. The problem is Druid already has cards like
Wrath.
Keeper. No, I mean Keeper of the Grove on the 4-mana slot, and Piloted Shredders.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure whether it makes the cut. But because cards like Piloted Shredder are pretty resistant to like
Clear.
bad turns. Even if they kill it, you've still got something. Whereas this card is quite easy to kill and it doesn't give you anything. But I think it's a good card. I quite like
It'd
it.
be a good thing to try out, and I'm sure people will try out beast decks and trying to put Savage Combatant in, and Darnassus
You definitely,
Aspirant.
if you're running a Druid Beast deck, I think you definitely put this in.
This for sure.
Because beasts in general are pretty weak, and this is like a pretty decent card, which is also a beast. So I think you run this.
Yeah, it's just extra benefit.
Yeah.
Okay, so next, well, we just talked about Darnassus. We got the Wild Walker in a beast deck. If that thing goes off, that's crazy. It's a 4-mana 4/7, but the health is split among 2 minions.
Yeah. I mean, now we've seen the cards that basically contribute to a beast deck already. I just don't think there's enough new stuff here to push Druid into making a beast deck. As in, you shift your entire deck towards beast, and the advantages you get are this card, Druid of the Fang, which is a pretty good one, and Knight of the Wild, which isn't even that insane. So I'm not sure you craft an entire deck for that benefit. But it's interesting that Blizzard's pushing that. It might be interesting in the future, but I don't think it's quite good enough yet.
If there were more beasts, I feel like if there were enough really strong beasts that, for example, Night of the Wild could be run, as in like when you draw that, you'd almost always be playing beasts as minions, assuming that synergy ever got to that level. Then that card becomes really strong, because you might be able to fit that out for 1 mana at some stage, for example.
Maybe.
But yeah,
But I think the bigger problem is just there's no, even if beasts were strong, like maybe you start putting a few beasts in your deck, but there's nothing there aren't enough cards that trigger off having beasts that make it worth running a truly synergistic beast deck.
And standalone, they're quite weak.
Yeah, and this card's okay. This 3 health, but cards like what was that Repair Bot? Like
Bot.
the 5-mana 5. The 5-mana 5/5 priest got in GVG, which looked great, like 5 mana for a 5/5, give 4 health to a random mech, but priest mech just never became a thing, so that card didn't get play, and I don't think Beast Druid is going to be a thing, so I don't think this card will get play.
By itself in Arena, I don't think it's a very good card. The chance of you synergizing.
No, you can't rely on Beast. So,
but I guess it's acceptable because there are a lot of really bad cards that you can pick from an Arena, so it's not the worst thing to come your way.
Yeah, 4 mana 4/4 is like below average, but okay.
Yeah. So next, Druid of the Saber. In Arena, this is great. You have the versatility, and I mean vanilla 2 mana 3/2s are like the bog standard Arena, and this one has stealth, so it can't just be straight up removed when you play it. If you're playing a 2 mana 3/2, or if they've played something like a Knife Juggler, you can just charge straight into it and remove it. It's either a bluegill or it's a Giblin with flipped stats.
Yeah. So if they have a high priority 2 mana, like 3/2, you can kill it. And if you don't want their like 2/1 to kill you, then you have stealth, so your card lives. I think it's a solid card. Definitely good in arena. Um, does it become? Is it a beast card or not? I don't. It doesn't say transform, does it? So
No, it's just choose one. I guess. Oh, I mean,
I'm not sure.
we don't know.
Uh,
We can find out when it gets played at some point.
the druid cards tend to be beast. That's all. But if it's, I don't know. I don't think it's. I think it's solid, but I'm not sure. I don't think it's strong enough for constructed
Oh
play.
yeah, I don't think it's
Just
strong
because
enough
like
for constructed.
the versatility is nice, but a 3 mana, a 3/2 stealth isn't that great. Like you still have to trade that at some point, and it's not great. I don't know. So a lot of people I've been seeing have been saying this card's great, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure in constructed it is, but in arena it's brilliant.
In arena for sure, yeah.
So next there's Living Roots. What do you think of it?
Well, obviously the first thing is the deal 2 damage means that you can directly compare this card to Arcane Shot and Holy Smite.
Yeah.
But I think if you're using this card as a deal 2 damage, it's not that great.
No.
Like, I'm not sure Druid would run. Druid wouldn't run Holy Smite or Arcane Shot if they had them, I don't think. So you need to be using the 1/1 sapling like a decent amount of the time, and then the 2 damage when you need it. So I think if you play this on turn 1, this is a decent 1-drop, or like having 2/1/1s is quite good. And I also think if you're playing this, if you can somehow get synergy out of having multiple minions and playing a spell, then it's good. So in the old days of Token Druid, I think you definitely would be playing this card. If you've got a Violet Teacher on the board, you play this card, suddenly you've got 3/1/1s, Power of the Wild, and you're laughing.
Yeah.
But I mean, that deck's not seeing as much play at the moment, but that would be one place where this card would obviously fit. Yeah, another thing I was thinking is whether having 2/1/1s is good because the opponent probably has to remove them in case you have Savage Roar, and just get all that bonus damage. But I'm not sure. Maybe, maybe not. I think this card's good because in the early game it's strong and you might be able to get value out of it late game. So.
Yeah, I think it's especially prevalent in something like Token Druid, which has, as you said, died out of fashion, or gone out of fashion. But as a card, that's definitely something that could bring a revival to something like that, because being able to, as you said, summon 3/1/1s, then power the world that for 3 mana, that's brilliant. That's 3 mana, summon 3 2/2s.
Yeah. I mean, Token Druid wants cheap spells. This is a cheap spell. They also want lots of minions. This gives you 2 minions for 1 mana. Like, it's pretty great.
It's exactly what you want. So I guess we'll find out then, won't we? Okay.
So that about wraps up Druid.
That about wraps up Druid.